Hey, what's up, everybody? The Future of Humanity by Michio Kaku. You might recognize Michio Kaku from TV. He's a public figure for science, sort of like Neil deGrasse Tyson, but Tyson is an astrophysicist, whereas Michio Kaku is a theoretical physicist. He's also a futurist, as well as a best selling author. Michio Kaku has written a number of books where he brings theoretical physics to the general public. Besides all that, Michio Kaku is also known for being one of the co-authors of string theory, which is an attempt to unify quantum gravity with general relativity. According to string theory, what we know as the fundamental particles are actually one-dimensional strings, each with their own vibration pattern. String theory also involves 10 dimensions, wormholes, the multiverse, hyperspace, and time travel. This book has a section on string theory, but it mainly focuses on possible technologies that we could see in the future. String theory could turn out to be correct, but the tech discussed in this book is actually theoretically achievable for the most part. Right off the bat, I want to say that this book was very enjoyable. There were so many times while reading this book I thought, this is the same feeling you get while reading really good sci fi. And that's kind of what this book is. It has some history, but it's about the future. And not just the future of humanity, but the future of our technology and our relationship to it and to each other surrounding it, and the possibility of finding life out there. This book is really about one of the concepts of the book from my last video, Flights of Fancy, and that is the innate need for humans to disperse and to spread. And that's explained in this book. Just like in Flights of Fancy, the idea is to not put all your eggs in one basket. The fact is, the Earth is not going to be around forever, but it's possible that humanity could outlive our home planet and our home star. This is the mindset that Michio Kaku starts us out with in the future of humanity. We're going to need to colonize space, and we're going to need technology to do it. There are some technologies that could work, and here are some of the challenges of leaving Earth. If that doesn't excite you, maybe you just haven't read the right book, and maybe the future of humanity could be that book. The future of humanity explores the concept of humanity as much as it does the future. The book starts out with our nearest neighbors, the moon and Mars, and we work our way out in the solar system and eventually beyond into the galaxy, and leaving the galaxy and exploring deep space, and even finally leaving the universe itself. Yes, this book goes big, and not only does it do this in a very interesting and educational way, but it's all really very believable. Although Michio Kaku is extremely optimistic, there's nothing in this book that sounds too far fetched, including immortality. Yeah, Kaku postulates that we could eventually digitize our minds one neuron at a time without even having to lose consciousness. We could then send ourselves across space where pre built avatars are waiting, inside which we could exist indefinitely. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's start with building a base on the moon. The moon base is, of course, a relay station for a more interesting goal of terraforming Mars. We're going to be relying heavily on AI and self assembling robots to do much of this work. With civilizations on the moon, the Mars, and Earth, our eggs are now in three baskets, but the baskets are all supported by the same star. Even if they weren't, we are humans, so we're going to spread. The gas giants, Jupiter and Saturn, have moons which have some really interesting properties. For me, this was one of the most enjoyable sections of the book. There's something about those gas giants and their moons. Maybe it's that they're so close that we can literally see them. And Europa is a candidate for life. We already know it's mostly liquid ocean surrounded by ice, but Europa and Ganymede of Jupiter and Titan and Enceladus of Saturn are particularly interesting moons. Ganymede actually has a thin atmosphere and its own magnetic field, unlike some planets I could mention. Titan has a dense atmosphere and stable liquid bodies have been confirmed on its surface. That is incredible. So between Mars and Jupiter, we have an asteroid belt which could be like it could start at the equivalent of like a new gold rush and support our building efforts for further expansion. At the edge of our solar system is the Oort cloud, which is made of icy bodies and comets. If our solar system is typical and not an exception, as the Copernican principle might suggest, then our closest galactic neighbor, Andromeda, might also be surrounded by its own Oort cloud. The Oort cloud extends far enough out that we could always have bases or spaceports along the way, so we would never have to make so big of a jump without having a nearby civilization. But all we really have to do is just wait, I guess, because the Milky Way and Andromeda are heading directly toward each other, and they will someday merge into a new galaxy in a very messy collision. But let's digress from our expansion and discuss the Kardashev scale. This is how we measure our technological achievements. As I sit here talking to my camera, we humans are about a type zero point 0.7 on the Kardashev scale. When we can efficiently utilize 100% of the solar radiation that hits our planet, we'll have finally become a type 1 civilization. When this happens, we'll be able to support population numbers that exceed the space on Earth. The most difficult jump to make in the Kardashev scale is from 0 to 1. Once we become a type 1, the next step is the ability to capture 100% of the energetic output of our home star. This could be done by constructing what is called a Dyson sphere around the sun. If we achieve this, we become a type 2 civilization. By this point, we've sent out self-replicating robot probes in every corner of the galaxy. Now we would be so powerful that we can support ridiculous population numbers and essentially expand indefinitely. From there, it's a matter of time till we reach Type 3 civilization when we have full control over all the energy in our galaxy. But don't get too excited yet because Michio Kaku talks about some of the challenges of living in space. We've spent a lot of years evolving to live on the surface of Earth. Cosmologically speaking, we're very specialized, and living in space presents many incredible dangers like cosmic rays, solar flares, micrometeors, elevated radiation exposure, and a host of issues that come from being weightless for extended periods of time. And only some of these problems are things that we can even do something about. But Michio Kaku is very much an optimist, and he's looked so far ahead that it's kind of mind blowing. Yeah, I'm talking about nothing less than the ultimate fate of our universe, which, as you may know, the universe is expanding at an increasing rate. So, one of the following things should eventually happen. There's the idea of the big crunch, where the universe stops expanding and contracts into a singularity. There's the big rip, where the universe keeps expanding at an increasing rate until every last atom has moved far enough away from every other atom that no communication is possible. This is about the loneliest thing that I can imagine. Now, besides just talking about mind blowing concepts like living in artificial gravity and immortalizing ourselves digitally, Michio Kaku talks about the philosophical, ethical, and human nature of us experiencing these changes as a people. What would it be like for us to actually do these things that he's talking about? One more word on string theory before we end the video. I should mention that when this book was written in 2018, string theory was the most respected theory to explain quantum gravity at the time, but over these last 5 years, that theory has come under some pretty heavy criticism and has lost much of its prestige. The book even states that string theory is the only explanation that has been proposed on quantum gravity, but I don't think that's true. There's the loop theory of quantum gravity, which is what Carlo Rovelli works on and whose books we reviewed on this channel. So you can probably tell that I really enjoyed this book. This was my first Michio Kaku book, but I've never read him before, but I know who he is, so I figured it would be pretty good. But the book really did exceed my expectations in a lot of ways. This thing is very well written, and he talks about so many really interesting and exciting things. And the fact that it is speculating on events that could actually happen with humanity gives the book another layer of quality. I also want to mention that I really loved the format of this book. It's divided into three big parts, each consisting of several chapters, and the content of each chapter is served in chunks with their own headings. To me, this is the best way to write nonfiction or of this style. This kind of format really helps the reader to understand what you're reading much better than rather than if it's just paragraph after paragraph. It's like having a map. You'll always know how much time the author is going to spend on each section because you can see where it stops. Also, I like to look ahead sometimes. I find that knowing what I'm about to read can help with learning and memory, and of course, going back to find a specific section is nice. Okay, guys, well, that's it for this one. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like anything space related or physics or even sci-fi, it's hard to imagine someone not loving this book. This is the kind of book that not only will you learn a lot, but you're going to very much enjoy doing it. So for sure, check out The Future of Humanity by Michio Kaku.